So, title of the presentation is Using the Hourglass Model for Open Source Development Research. You heard this morning, Thibaut Kleinert said, open money leads to open source. So I would say open money leads to open research. Then we get to standards, and then open source. Okay. So this is our outlook. We're going to show to you what is the Hourglass model and see how it is being used in 4 projects. Hourglass model was invented a long time ago, and there was even a paper published in Conjugation ACM 2019 to show how you can use it to understand how you create the ecosystem, how the ecosystem will grow, okay? And 2 examples were used. One is IP, and the other one was Unix, okay? So we applied it, and the purpose is now that we want to create an ecosystem where we bridge the demand and the supply side. Exactly the previous talk, we're talking about research, but we need also the industry. And this is this bridging that is most important, okay? And we need to find the drivers for usability so that actually the demand side will use reusable technology. Okay. In order to reach that, we need to create a consistent way of creating the system from the stakeholders to the capabilities, including the standards, and then open source. So first of all, we need to understand that there are layers, because on top you might have users and below the infrastructure, okay? So you want to layer the key enablers. Then, because you want to put the things together, you want to foster interoperability and reusability. Then you want to leverage regulation, harmonize standards. This is fresh, really new, so we need to do it now, okay? And we want to leverage standards, okay? So, and the last thing is, once you have this, you want to make the thing happen, so you use open source. So here's an example of usability that was created in the CI Sphere project, where we focus on CEI, Cloud Edge IoT. You see on the left, you have stakeholders. So that's why you have only business people here. On the right, you have capabilities, technology, starting below from Internet of Things, Cloud Edge IoT, digital twin, platforms, data analytics, user interfaces. Here an example of standards where we can focus on CEI assets, architecture patterns, minimum interoperability mechanisms, and on top, semantic models for the users. So you can also use it for regulation. Below you have standards, on top you have regulations, and you want to have reusable conformity mechanisms. But there are multiple ecosystems, so we have to bet about where we create the growing ecosystem. So here is an example, which I believe is where we are currently navigating with the projects we will show later. We have below IoT domain ecosystem, the Cloud Edge IoT ecosystem, where we bridge the gap between IoT and the cloud. You have then the data space ecosystem, when you want to share data, and you want to have something that is trustworthy, so you have the trust framework ecosystem. But one thing that is important is we do research. So when we start, we have technology push. So the ecosystem is a technology push ecosystem. Then you mature and you get to a market push, because you want to push the market, okay? And then if you made the right bet, you will have a market pull. So the market will take it, okay? And the whole problem for us is to get to the last stage, okay? And we need to find all the tools, including open source, to make sure that people can say, okay, now I can use it, okay? So when it comes to open source, you have different things to check in this maturity adventure, okay? So first of all, is the open source itself mature, okay? That's why we need Eclipse, the foundation, to tell us, yeah, here is good, but here you should improve, and things like that, okay? So for instance, IPR issues, you need to solve them, okay? Then you also have the innovation stage. So the research solution could be good, but not yet mature for industry, and the other way around. Okay, so we need to check those things. And last but not least is the community growth. So if you have a system that is good but only used by 3 people, it's not the same. So you need to make sure that the community is growing. So I'm going to give the floor to Cécile for one project, which is OCI.
Okay. Thank you very much, Antonio. I hope you can hear me well. So now I will present the application of the Hourglass Model methodology that Antonio just presented to the OCI project, which is a European project coordinated by UPV, Universitat Polytechnique of Valencia. So OCI stands for Open Cloud Edge IoT Platform Uptake in Large-Scale Cross-Domain Pilots. So the mission of this project is to drive the rapid adoption and scaling of cutting-edge solutions for energy optimization, thus enhancing Europe's competitiveness and enabling strategic autonomy. So as you can see by this list of some of the main OCI innovative outcomes, this project has a strong focus on data sharing and thus interoperability and cross-domain data exchanges. And that is also illustrated by the goal to develop a cross-domain continuum ontology. And this project will offer a federated marketplace to allow users from all over Europe to discover, select, and allow installation of solutions developed in the project, either in the large-scale cross-domain pilots or in the open call projects that are taking place right now. The solutions from the OCI project will be applicable in 6 key strategic verticals, as you can see here: electricity grid, electromobility, software-defined vehicles, as we've heard a lot about this already in this event, because it's a very growing topic, agri-food and agriculture, logistics, and urban environment. As I mentioned, the project is coordinated by UPV and started in January 2025. Here you can see some information about the 8 large-scale pilots, so that they are located all over Europe. They all have their main topics, all related to energy, optimization, flexibility, some of them with specific work on vehicle-to-grid, federated learning, and lots of different topics. But what is very important also to explain is that there is a strong focus in this project on cross-domain data exchange, as you can see by the relationship between the different pilots. So they will exchange data, but also cooperate on AI models, and also share best practices, user engagement methodologies, strategies, and everything will be cross-leveraged around the project. So how does the Hourglass Model application in this project look like? So the OCI project started to adopt this methodology to describe the CEI ecosystem, and particularly the ecosystems of its large-scale pilots. This allowed to identify the minimum interoperability mechanism that is the most needed in this project, and this is, as illustrated in the middle, finding a way to give access to CI assets to both the users, so the top part of the stakeholders, as explained by Antonio, and also to the infrastructure providers. This way, they can all implement and make available the capabilities that they are responsible for. This will be achieved through a CI asset marketplace that is currently developed by the project, and it will result in the platform that can be used, for instance, by energy management system providers in order to manage energy in the different pilots. And this analysis, which is still a work in progress, also allows to continuously identify the open source needs of the project partners. In this case, we do it in collaboration with Eclipse Foundation, which is also who is also a project participant. And one of the main targets that has been identified is the development of a CI asset builder, which will indeed be open source. And it also needs to be compatible with Eclipse data space components, and also the TM Forum product specification. And and UPV will explain more in a second talk tomorrow about also the open source targets in the different pilots. Thank you very much for your attention. I'll introduce Léo Cornec now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I will present the Edge IoT project and all this consortium. So Edge IoT means holistic approach toward empowerment of the digitalization of the energy ecosystem through adoption of IoT solutions. It's a project that was started in January 2024 and that aims to deploy IoT assets at different levels of the energy system, from behind the meter to the TSO level. It also aims to add intelligence at the edge and cloud layer and to bridge the cloud-edge continuum. The project turns around smart energy, smart grid, semantic interoperability, grid management and optimization, flexibility, AI, energy communities. For this, the main components are a data space connector, edge cloud services, app store, computational orchestrator, semantic enablers, and AI ML services. Of course, we have pilots. We have 6 pilots spread all around Europe. 2 are more focused on grid management and optimization, 2 on energy flexibility and energy communities, and 2 of them are a bit hybrid between those 2 topics. On the slide, you can see the application of the Hourglass Model concept to the Edge IoT project. On the left side, you have the stakeholders. I want to highlight the key players, the key stakeholders, the grid operators, TSO and DSO, as well as the energy community users and operators, and the flexibility market users and operators. The key aspects we want to highlight with Edge IoT is the AI-based service library for energy data space. That's the key point of the project. And to allow this, we are going through the implementation of capabilities, like an app store for all the services to make them available throughout the architecture for all the different stakeholders. Also, some cloud and edge AI-based services for energy, grid optimization, grid infrastructure, flexibility, and energy communities. A data space connector is used, and it's based on Eclipse data space and also the data space protocol, the DSP. Semantic interoperability layer is in place, and that's one of the key elements of the project. On the right side, I want to conclude by a highlight for the different proposed open source aspects of the project. The first one is a library of semantic interoperability enablers. The second one is a library of AI-based edge cloud services. And in the project, we are IDS compliant. So we are data space compliant, following IDSA standards and framework, and using the last version of the data space protocol. We can also just mention briefly all the items like an open app store, an open orchestrator, and open IoT solutions. Of course, the list is long, but those are the highlights. I can let the floor to my colleague for Licorice project.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to present the Licorice project, which is, let's say, cybersecurity project. It is a project that is funded by, once again, the European Union, and it covers 3 different type of tools. The first one is the UD wallet ecosystem. We also have the development of secure European data spaces. And one of the biggest purpose of this project is to fight cyber threats and identity-related crimes. Therefore, once these different tools are developed, the idea is that we can apply them in the cyber threat intelligence AI-based pilot, and also in a pilot that is focused on health, more specifically, but the use case in this health pilot is lungs diseases. So if you want to read a little bit more about the project, there is the link of the project is not that different. It stands for the suites, of course, but it is fully based for sovereign identity and privacy preserving tool sets. We have 12 partners. Now we can say 13 because we have one that counts for 2. They are all distributed in 8 different member states. And the focus, once again, is interoperability, scalability, usability. One of the purposes is, of course, to have open source adoption, which I'm going to explain with my Hourglass model here. In the case of Eclipse project, the idea is that we're going to, as all of the different projects where we apply the model, we have to identify the stakeholders and the capabilities. The stakeholders, in this case, are the ones that can offer us trustworthiness. So, for instance, we have the applications that uses identification as the source to allow the users to the system. Then in the, let's say, the narrow layer there, where we tend to say that is the minimum interoperability mechanisms, as is the layer that will allow us to have a common communication, a standardized way of talking. In that one, we will think of all of the security and privacy compliance stakeholders that can somehow help us in the standardization section. And then in the infrastructure, like close to the infrastructure side, we will have all the data and the actual infrastructure providers. Here is more about who's going to provide the wallet, who's going to provide the cloud services. In our case, the pilots are more, let's say, on-site placed, since the pets we're using are, by instance, biometrics, federal learning. And then that leads us to the capabilities. So as I was mentioning, we have the wallets, and in our case, one of the capabilities will be that for the e-wallet, we align with the identity frameworks. Then for the interoperability layer, we can think of, once again, the self-sovereign identity and the privacy-enhancing technologies. For instance, we can think of the ISO AC27, the OpenID, and all of the ongoing already standards, and also all of the different acts that can help us, like the CR Act. And then we have the infrastructure management. In here is more about what will help us managing the physical infrastructure. So we have the PKI, the LT, and that could lead us also to data spaces. On the open source side, we can think of the system helping us in the interoperability sense of having building blocks that are completely compliant with the data spaces already working on open source communities. For instance, one of the partners of the project is IDSA, who is working in this case data space components group, and also we have like strong links that we can say allowed us to contribute in the Eclipse Foundation Data Space Initiative.
I want to add, there are 5 sister projects, and we will enroll them, and the goal is to provide the future library of pets for data space. Okay, so this is the goal, and we have a bet with Rosaria that if we have this, she pays me a bottle of champagne.
Yeah, that's be careful. Hello, I'm Estibaliz, and yeah, now we are changing completely of sector area. We've been talking about projects on energy, mobility, privacy, data protection, trustworthiness, and now we arrive to agriculture. Okay, so technology, a space project, which you already have there, the roll-up twice, I've seen. So do not miss any information, okay, of the project. And so here's, okay, technology for agriculture, in this case, what technology? Drones, data spaces, digital twin, and how? Through open source strategy and use. SPADE is a 4-year project. Horizon Europe, it has 21 partners. It will finish this year at the end of August. Maybe we'll listen a little bit depending on the 2 open calls that we have had for applications. The main goal of the project is, technically speaking, is the implementation of the ecosystem, a multi-purpose physical cyber agri-forest drones ecosystem. Okay, this is for the governance and also for environmental observation. Some global objectives, of course, of the Commission, we have the enhanced ecosystem farm to fork, but also to develop the platform which is multi-purpose generic to manage the drones and also use the data for, on top of that, build different applications. Of course, we provide open source solutions. Also, Eclipse Foundation is a partner of the project, so they can check as well. It has 3 demonstrations pilots in livestock, agriculture, and forestry. We have 2 open calls. Now it's the 2nd open call. They are deployed into different applications. And also there are some synergies with the 2 other sister projects, which are Chameleon and Icarius. Most of all on the crop monitoring, to detect diseases, to track the health of a plant, and also for tracking different animals, okay, livestock, and of course, which is, we can say, the star of it, the drone spray in agriculture is something that every cooperative or every farmer wants to use. I know, because I come from the rural zone, so I know. And here we have, just in a brief outline, the 3 pilots of SPADE. The first one, the forestry in Norway. Swarm for inventory, there are different drones created and built. Larger for drone leader, a scanner flying, feather drone, or large drone for also lifting the trees and planting. Okay, the planting drone with machine learning solutions. Then we have the agriculture one in Mallorca, Spain, in 2 places, one in Sóller and another in Sa Pobla. So we have different types of plants, because in the first one we have olive and citrus fruit trees. The other one is potatoes. And this is to use the drones for crop diseases detect, soil characterization, to support the decision making to the end users. It could be the farmers, the agricultures, and the cooperatives, which treatment to do and to save efforts, time, and money. And of course, this is the high precision agriculture, we can say, for fumigation and irrigation using the drones. And the third one is in Greece, livestock. This is for the optimization of animal grazing and healthcare management with drones. So it can detect, well, tracking in real time the animal with IoT chip collars, but also its detection of, maybe I would say, abnormal or specific behavior, with grazing, moving in circles, limping, so they can detect that the animal can be dead, badly injured, whatever. Okay, so that's the final goal. And just having a glimpse here of the 3 pilots, how we apply the Hourglass model, in this case, in this project. At the left, we have the stakeholders, which we have, maybe it is better to start with the middle that you can see in bold. In the middle, we have the minimum interoperability mechanism, which is the access to agricultural data using the SPADE digital twin. So we have the stakeholders, the open source digital twin platform provider, and also the capabilities of the digital twin data aggregation, which is important. On top of the open source digital twin platform providers, we have the end users, APP developers, data space and platforms providers, and if we go to the bottom, we have the infrastructure providers, the ones that build, design the drones, IoT devices, depending on the application, centers, etc. If we go to the right side, we have the different capabilities. We have already said one important one is the digital twin data aggregation, data space analytics and machine learning algorithms to analyze the agriculture data for specific making decisions, different applications on that, the edge computing, drones operation, and swarm flight, and of course IoT-based sensing and actuating. And we will finish with open source, which is the core of this presentation also, together with the Hourglass Model application. Here, a Spade project is already an Eclipse project, if I'm not wrong. It's just finishing the last things. It is also already available. We have also different folders with the different open calls winners, okay, with different applications. And one thing very important is that we are implementing basics, which has been just already before only implemented and used in a smart manufacturing. So now we are changing, using the basics, open source, in another field sector completely different, in agriculture. I don't know if you... So this is the whole picture of the project, very brief. And I will let Antonio to finish with the CEI toolkit explanation.
So thank you. So this is an exercise for all of us to bridge the gap between the demand side and the supply side. We use the Hourglass model because the focus on what is the gem that we are producing at the end of the project. Okay. So the CI Sphere came up with a toolkit, a methodology allowing us to think about it. Okay. So it addresses ecosystem fragmentation. It allows us to understand what it is we want to reuse. It is concerning all the stakeholders. We start with the EU Research Project Coordinator, okay? He has a good idea, but then we have the other people, the policymakers, and so forth, okay? So we want to have it to allow us to have a strategic positioning of the ecosystem, of what the project is providing, and what it is we want to do in terms of open source, okay? So that we reuse and we have an impact. Okay, so, and we want, of course, to amplify the market take-up, coming from the technology push, market push to market pull, okay? And of course, we want to optimize resources. So this is the toolkit. You have here the URL where you have the document, the document which is explaining it. In a nutshell, it has 4 steps, and we call it Toolkit 1, Toolkit 2, Toolkit 3, Toolkit 4, okay? The first 2, Toolkit 1, Toolkit 2, are lightweight. We do them quickly. We have like a session, discussion, we brainstorm, and we have the result, okay? So first of all, we have to identify the ecosystem. So in this ecosystem, first of all, we identify the stakeholders with their objectives. This is the most important, okay? Then we go a step further where we have a high-level ecosystem discussion process, including open source. So we're going to get further. What are the layers, the stakeholders, the concerns, capabilities, standards, and open source, okay? As a first stage, because we are starting in the project, okay? Then we have to mature, and you have Toolkit 3 and Toolkit 4, which are following the development of project. They take time because we want to validate, want to make sure that our first idea is good, so we will mature. So we have Toolkit 3, which is in-depth ecosystem analysis, including the ecosystem, okay? We do this while we are developing because we will realize that we made mistake, we want to switch, we want to change things, okay? So that at the end, or nearly the end of the project, I would say before deployment, okay? So before the proof of concept, then we have a very good idea of what it is we're doing, okay? And this is Toolkit 3. And then we get to the last stage, which is very important, okay? Which is how do we create an impact, and we make sure that we identify the goodies, the right features that are making up our ecosystem, and we would like to verify, okay? So if we go to certification, we would do this, okay? And we call this actually trust label analysis because we are identifying the good things in our implementation that will highlight and tell the business manager that because of them, we'll have a good ecosystem, okay? So the TK4 is very important, and CI Sphere has this ambition to create the ecosystem, the trust label for CEI. The CEI asset will be associated with this trust label. But we don't want it to be just a marketing label. It has to be technical. It tells us that we have reached the right quality to go to the market. Okay. So, yep, we're done. Questions?
Questions? One
Yeah,
questions?
not
No?
sure.
Not acceptable? The second one? Thank you for introducing this wonderful concept to work on the bridge of technology transfer from research into industry. One question I would have from the toolkit, from the four-step toolkit you presented, and especially the earlier version where you spoke about digital identities, is if at any point you're doing some kind of, I would say, LZ impact assessment, especially given that you highlighted using SSI technology, was this now known to actually lead to issues of national security by the data broker files, and also systemic discrimination of various kinds of users. There is an example out of Hamburg in Germany where users of public transportation get a worse credit score because they have installed the public transportation app and are trackable by unique identifiers. And I would love to hear how those LZ criteria flow into the standards you're defining, because the populace at large is usually not represented by a stakeholder.
So, first of all, the answer is we should do it. And even more than that, we shall do it. Okay, this LC stuff, okay? And so in the way it is presented, we are presenting the concerns of the stakeholders, and you can see that, if you get to, let's say here, you have to have the LC people, ethics and things here, and the policymakers, and then it can flow, okay? Because then you can identify the requirements that the stakeholders are having on the system. Yeah.
Maybe if I had, specifically on the case of the self-sovereign identity, which I think is the one you were thinking of. Well, here, yes, of course, we need to tackle that, and I think we all here, hearing about all different conferences, are concerned about it. But just to separate a little bit, the Hourglass model allowed us to identify what in the whole ecosystem we should target first. So here we're thinking about, okay, we're going to talk about, we have all of those issues, but who's the concerns? The concerns are for the SSI providers and the people who are integrating the bits.
It starts with the fact that the OpenID Foundation is not a standards body, and you list them as standards.
Yeah, because in the narrow layer, the idea is that we identify who can help us in this
that's the problem I'm trying to address. The OpenID Foundation is, but let's maybe make this a side discussion.
But you're right. OpenID has a liaison with C27 that we mentioned it. But here we have capabilities, and in the capabilities sometimes you use OpenID solution. But yes, it's not a standard per se. It could be something that is by practice.
The point is that. So to make this transparent, I was a member of the European Union Ad Hoc Technical Advisory Group, and we became aware of the fact that the OpenID Foundation seems to be running a coordinated effort by its industry partners to actually make their concepts, which are used to label machines, to label humans. And my accent might give it away. I grew up in Germany. I don't like the idea of numbering people.
Yeah. Okay. So. Obviously, those issues, we have to take them into account when we do the analysis. Yeah, I would fully support what you just said, okay? So it turns out that maybe in the project we have here, we didn't address that. So yeah, that's one of the points that is important. And it could prevent the ecosystem to grow if we just forget one of the things. So I just fully agree with you that when you have societal concerns, at the stakeholder level, we need to take that into account. Yeah.
If we are late, I think I can take this.